Hello students, welcome to our APS classes, and as all we know that this is our foundation course especially for the students from 9 to 12. And in our today's lecture we will discuss about the notes for NEET, and our topic is reproductive health, that is for the class 12, and this is our special lecture for the notes regarding the NEET for the students of class 12. So let us start with our reproductive health. Reproductive health. So reproductive health bete, reproduction, ability to produce young ones. That process is known as reproduction. And there are two types of reproduction, that is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is that reproduction in which only single parent is involved, whereas sexual reproduction is that reproduction in which both the parents are involved, that is both male and female are involved, and that type of reproduction is known as sexual reproduction. तो बेटे आज जो हमारा फर्स्ट टॉपिक है इस चैप्टर से रिलेटेड वो है आपका that is reproductive health problems and strategies. अगर आपकी health है, health means that totally you are free from the diseases. जब हम totally free होते हैं diseases से, at that time we can say that the person is healthy and wealthy. तो अगर health से related अगर हम बात करें, तो अगर reproduction की बात है तो reproduction से related जो होंगे वो ढेरों diseases हो सकते हैं. तो उसी चैप्टर से रिलेटेड हमारा जो एक कंसेप्ट आज का वो है कि रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ, किस तरह से हमारी जो एक हेल्थ है, रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ जो है उसमें कौन कौन सी प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती हैं, या फिर उस रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ के लिए हम कौन कौन सी स्ट्रेटेजीज को अप्लाई कर सकते हैं जिससे कि हम अपनी एक हेल्थ, रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ को जो है वो हम क्या कर सके, क्योर कर सकें. तो reproductive health, that is problems and strategies. That means regarding the reproductive health, various problems and strategies are there. So India जो है ये एक आपका एक ऐसी कंट्री है जिसमें कि सबसे पहले 1951 में क्या लिया था, एक स्टेप लिया था. That is India was amongst the first countries in the world. वर्ल्ड में सबसे पहली जो हमारी कंट्री है इंडिया की, वो एक पहला एकमात्र देश है पूरे विश्व में, संसार में, जिसने कि 1951 में क्या किया था, इनिशिएट द प्रोग्राम्स. स्पेशली इंडिया ने क्या किया था, एक प्रोग्राम्स को इनिशिएट किया था, और वो प्रोग्राम जो था वो इनिशिएट हुआ था, दैट इज इन 1951, एंड दैट प्रोग्राम वाज रिलेटेड विद द फैमिली प्लानिंग. दैट प्रोग्राम वाज नोन एज फैमिली planning. So reproductive health in a society, it forms a crucial part of the general health. That means reproduction or the reproductive health, that is in a society, it forms a crucial part of the reproductive health. Especially improved programs covering vital reproduction, especially regarding the reproduction, there are improved programs that covering the wider reproduction, and these are the related areas are currently, these are the operations under the popular name, and that popular name was related with the reproductive health. This was the reproductive as well as child health care. These special programs, अब एक improved programs हैं जो कि cover करते हैं wide range को, और वो specially जो हमारे reproductive programs जो हैं वो किससे रिलेट करते हैं, स्पेशली वो रिलेट करते हैं रिप्रोडक्टिव एज वेल एज चाइल्ड हेल्थ केयर प्रोग्राम से. तो आपके क्या है, रिप्रोडक्टिव एज वेल एज चाइल्ड हेल्थ केयर प्रोग्राम, दैट इज RCH. दैट मींस रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ केयर प्रोग्राम्स. सो दिस इज द फर्स्ट स्ट्रेटेजी. नेक्स्ट, हेल्थ एंड एजुकेशन ऑफ हाइजीन. हेल्थ एंड एजुकेशन ऑफ यंग पीपल and marriages and childbearing during the more mature stages of the life are important attributes to the reproductive health of the society. अगर हम क्या करते हैं कि अगर हम हेल्थ के बारे में या हेल्थ एज वेल एज एजुकेशन ऑफ हाइजीन के बारे में हम क्या करते हैं, या मैरिजेस है, ये चाइल्ड बियरिंग जो ड्यूरिंग द मोर मैच्योर आपके जो स्टेजेस ऑफ लाइफ है उसमें अगर हम उनको अवेयर करें तो उसमें क्या है कि इन चीजों के बारे में हम क्या कर सकते हैं, सोसाइटी को ज्यादा से ज्यादा अवेयर कर सकते हैं। तो उसके लिए हमें क्या है कि हेल्थ के बारे में भी कॉन्शियस होना पड़ेगा, एज वेल एज जो एक एजुकेशन है यंग पीपल की उसके लिए भी उनको कॉन्शियस करना पड़ेगा कि एक एजुकेशन जो है हाइजीन के प्रति या फिर हेल्थ के प्रति जो एजुकेशन है उसकी क्या वैल्यू है। दैट मीन्स दीज आर द वेरियस स्ट्रेटेजीज एज वेल एज द प्रॉब्लम्स रिगार्डिंग द रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ। नेक्स्ट इज व्हाट आर द मेजर्स टेकन बाय द गवर्नमेंट। What are the measures that are taken by the government? That means अगर हम reproductive health की बात कर रहे हैं तो reproductive health से related जो है वो various problems भी हो सकते हैं और उसके लिए हम various strategies को भी apply कर सकते हैं। तो उसके बाद आता है कि कौन से ऐसे various types के measures हैं या कौन से various types के precautions हैं that are used by the government regarding the reproductive health। तो पहला जो हमारा मेजर है दैट इज टेकन बाय द गवर्नमेंट वो क्या है कि थ्रू द हेल्प ऑफ द ऑडियो विजुअल, अगर हम ऑडियो विजुअल एड्स की बात करें तो उसकी हेल्प से हम क्या कर सकते हैं, हम मेजर्स जो है वो हम अप्लाई कर सकते हैं रिगार्डिंग द रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ। सो थ्रू द हेल्प ऑफ द ऑडियो विजुअल as well as print media. So these are the especially two types of the important measures, that is through audio visual as well as print media. With the help of these measures we can easily educate or aware the people regarding the reproductive health. Second one is even family members जो कि close relations में हैं, they are involved in the awareness। अगर हमारे family members हैं या फिर ज्यादा से ज्यादा वो close हमारे हैं तो उनको हम क्या कर सकते हैं, एक awareness programs दे सकते हैं regarding the किसके बारे में, reproductive health के बारे में। और उन awareness programs की help से जो है वो लोग जो है वो ज्यादा से ज्यादा अवेयर हो सकते हैं, कॉन्शियस हो सकते हैं अपनी रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ के बारे में। नेक्स्ट, सेक्स एजुकेशन इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट मेजर दैट इज टू बी यूज्ड इन द स्कूल्स टू अवेयर और टू एजुकेट द स्टूडेंट्स। So sex education was introduced in the schools. Especially this sex education is most important, that is to be provided in the schools to provide the awareness. With the help of the sex education we can educate as well as aware the students of the school regarding the reproductive health. Next is proper information about the reproductive organs. That means in our body there are various types of the reproductive organs. So regarding the reproductive organs there is proper information. Adolescence, what do you mean by the term adolescence, as well as related changes, what are the various related changes that are involved in the body parts, as well as safe and hygienic sexual practices. Safe as well as sexual hygienic practices, they are related with the reproductive health, as well as sexually transmitted diseases such as AIDS, they are involved with the reproductive health. So these are the special type of the measures that is to be taken by the government regarding the reproductive health. Next is, what do you mean by the term aminosynthesis? That means this is the special type of the technique that is to be used to find out the chromosomal abnormalities. That means with the help of this technique, that is aminosynthesis, and with the help of this aminosynthesis technique we have to find out the special type of the abnormalities that are to be found in the chromosomal abnormalities in the developing embryo. That means with the help of this technique, that is aminosynthesis, we have to find out the chromosomal abnormalities, and these chromosomal abnormalities are to be found in the developing embryo. और हम उन chromosomal abnormalities को एक developing embryo में कैसे find out कर सकते हैं, with the help of amniotic fluid, that is amniotic fluid. So with the help of this amniotic fluid we can easily find out the chromosomal abnormalities that are to be found in the developing embryo. So this is known as aminosynthesis. नेक्स्ट इज इट इज ऑल्सो मिसयूज टू चेक फीटल सेक्स। एक तरफ से हम इस टेक्निक की हेल्प से हम क्रोमोसोमल एबनॉर्मलिटीज को फाइंड आउट कर सकते हैं किसी भी एक डेवलपिंग एम्ब्रॉय में विद द हेल्प ऑफ एमनियोटिक फ्लूइड, बट इसके साथ साथ ही ये जो है इसका एक मिसयूज भी है। इट इज ऑल्सो यूज्ड एज अ मिसयूज टू चेक द फीटल सेक्स। फीटल सेक्स को चेक करने के लिए भी इसका टेक्निक का जो है वो मिसयूज किया जाता है, स्पेशली फीटल सेक्स डिटर्मिनेशन, एंड दैट इज बेस्ड on the chromosomal pattern in the amniotic fluid. So it is also used as a misused in the find out in the check the fetal sex determination, that is to be on the chromosomal pattern in the amniotic fluid surrounding the developing embryo. So amniocentesis जो है एक स्पेशल टाइप का टेक्निक है जिसकी हेल्प से हम क्या कर सकते हैं कि क्रोमोसोमल एबनॉर्मलिटीज जो है किसी भी डेवलपिंग फीचर्स में अगर पाई जाती हैं तो विद द हेल्प ऑफ एमनियोटिक फ्लूइड हम उसको क्या कर सकते हैं, फाइंड आउट कर सकते हैं। बट पैरेलली इट इज आल्सो यूज्ड एज अ मिसयूज्ड टू चेक द फीटल सेक्स डिटर्मिनेशन, स्पेशली ऑन द क्रोमोसोमल पैटर्न एज वेल एज इन द एमनियोटिक फ्लूइड सराउंडिंग द डेवलपिंग एम्ब्रॉय। नेक्स्ट इज पॉपुलेशन एक्सप्लोजन एंड बर्थ कंट्रोल। पॉपुलेशन एक्सप्लोजन एंड बर्थ कंट्रोल आज की डेट में जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट जो आज का एक इश्यू है या सबसे बड़ी जो एक प्रॉब्लम है, दैट इज द पॉपुलेशन एक्सप्लोजन एंड हाउ द birth is to be controlled. That means there are special type of the measures that are to be taken regarding the population explosion as well as birth control. So इसमें हम क्या कहेंगे, improved quality of the life people. सबसे पहले तो जो एक आपकी लाइफ स्टाइल है, लोगों का जो रहन सहन है, उसमें एक स्पेशल टाइप की क्या होनी चाहिए, एक इम्प्रूवमेंट होनी चाहिए. दैट इज द इम्प्रूव्ड क्वालिटी और द इम्प्रूव्ड लाइफ स्टाइल ऑफ द पीपल, इंक्रीज्ड हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज एंड बेटर लिविंग कंडीशंस. और साथ साथ हमें क्या करना है, एक तो लोगों का एक लाइफस्टाइल कैसा होना चाहिए, उसके बाद बेटर लिविंग कंडीशंस होनी चाहिए. जितनी ज्यादा पॉपुलेशन कम होगी उतना ही ज्यादा लोगों का जो एक लिविंग पैटर्न है या लिविंग कंडीशंस है वो उतनी ही ज्यादा अच्छी होंगी. एंड दे आर बेटर लिविंग कंडीशंस एंड हैड एन एक्सप्लोसिव इंपैक्ट ऑन द explosion of the population. Rapid decline in death rate, that is MMR. Rapid in the decline death rate, that is MMR. MMR, that means maternal mortality rate, as well as IMR, that is the infant mortality rate. That is the infant mortality rate. So rapid in decline death rate जो है, that is MMR, that is maternal mortality rate, as well as IMR, that is infant mortality rate, along with the increases in the population of reproductive age. That is the main reason of the population explosion. That means MMR as well as IMR, that is the infant mortality rate, and maternal mortality rate, that is along with the increase in the population explosion age, is the main reason especially for the population explosion. Next is, what are the various steps, what are the various steps to overcome population explosion. That means to overcome the population explosion at that time, what are the various steps that are to be used regarding the overcoming of the population explosion. So there are various steps that are to be used regarding the overcoming of the population explosion. Number one is using various contraceptive methods. That means by using these contraceptive methods we can easily control the birth rate. Birth control को हम easily control कर सकते हैं with the help of these contraceptive methods. So these are the various methods that are to be used regarding to overcoming the population explosion. Second one is educating the people about the demerits of the large family. If we have to be educate the people of locality or educate the people of our locality, that means what are the various demerits regarding the large family. So by this step we can easily control or overcome the population explosion. नेक्स्ट इज इंक्रीजिंग द मैरिजेबल एज ऑफ द फीमेल एंड द मेल. जब हम क्या करेंगे, वी हैव टू बी इंक्रीजिंग द मैरिजेबल एजेस both male as well as female. So this is again the next step to overcome the population explosion. And the last one is providing incentives to parents. That means this is the last and the most important step regarding the overcoming of the population explosion. That means we have to educate the parents regarding the having one or two children. So by this method we can easily overcome the population explosion. So this is providing incentives to the parents. That means they have having only one or two children. Having one or two children. So after the steps that are to be used to overcome the population explosion, our next important topic regarding the reproductive health is what are the contraceptive methods that are used to prevent the unwanted pregnancy and modifying the menstrual cycle. That means regarding the population control as well as overcoming the population, as well as you have to be avoid the unwanted pregnancy. That means we have to be use various contraceptive methods, and with the help of these contraceptive methods we have to be avoid the unwanted pregnancy, as well as we have to be modifying the menstrual cycle. So there are various contraceptive methods. By these contraceptive methods we have to be avoid the unwanted pregnancy, as well as we have to modify the menstrual cycle. So our first step is an ideal contraceptive should be. That means your contraceptive should be ideal. And for the ideal regarding the contraceptive we have various methods. First is use friendly. That means that contraceptives they are to be used friendly. Second one is easily available. कोई ऐसा मुश्किल नहीं है कि ये contraceptive methods जो होते हैं वो मिलते नहीं है. They are easily available. Third one is these contraceptives are very effective. And next is the contraceptive is to be reversible. By these contraceptives there are no side effects. And the last one is no way interferes with sexual desire and the sexual act. No way, that is to be interferes with the sexual desire as well as sexual act. So these are the contraceptive methods that are to be used to avoid the unwanted pregnancy, as well as how to modify the menstrual cycle. And ideal contraceptive should have the following characters. One is that is user friendly. Second one is easily available. Third one is it is most effective. Fourth one, it is reversible. Next is these contraceptives have no side effects. And the last one is no way interference with the sexual desires as well as sexual act. Next is contraceptive methods could be divided into the following categories. That means there are various types of the contraceptives, but these contraceptives have to be divided into the following steps or following categories. So this is the next topic. That means these contraceptive methods have to be divided into following categories. So first category is these contraceptives are natural or traditional methods. These are natural or traditional methods. That means these are natural or traditional methods. Second one is these are barrier methods. Barrier methods. Third category is that is IUDs. That is intrauterine devices. These are the various categories of the contraceptive methods. One is the natural or the traditional methods. Second one is the barrier methods. Third one is IUDs, that is intrauterine devices. Fourth one is that is oral contraceptive methods. Oral contraceptive methods. That is oral contraceptive methods. Next category of the contraceptives is to be injectable. This is to be injectable. Next category of the contraceptive method is implants. And the last contraceptive method is the surgical methods. So these are the various categories of the contraceptives that are to be used regarding the birth control. So there are first method, that is to be natural or the traditional method. Second one is the barrier method. Third one is the intrauterine devices. Fourth one is the oral contraceptive methods, injectable, surgical method, and the last one is implants. So these are the various categories of the contraceptive methods. Next is natural methods work on the principle of avoiding chances of ovum sperm meeting, and these specially includes. So natural, what are the various natural methods that are to be used regarding the avoiding chances of the ovum as well as sperm meeting? That means there are special type of the natural methods that are to be works on the principle, especially regarding the ovum as well as meeting of the sperm. So what are the various methods that are to be used regarding the ovum as well as meeting of the sperm? So first method is periodic. This is the first method, that is periodic abstinence. This is the first natural method regarding the chances, avoiding chances of the ovum as well as meeting of the sperm. That is, first method is periodic abstinence. So what do you mean by that term, और what do you mean by the method that is the periodic abstinence? तो बेटे ये periodic abstinence जो है ये कौन सा ऐसा natural method है जो कि specially किस चीज के लिए use किया जाता है? That is to be used avoiding the chances of the ovum as well as meeting of the sperm. तो इस method में क्या होता है बेटे? The couples avoid coitus. In this method, that is the periodic abstinence, and in this method the couples they have to be avoid the coitus. That means they have to avoid the coitus. From this, that means in this period or in this method the couples they have to avoid the coitus from the period that is 10 to 17 day. 10 to 17 day of the menstrual cycle. 10 to 17 day of the menstrual cycle. So in this periodic abstinence, at that time the couples they have to be avoid the coitus from 10 to 17th day of the menstrual cycle, as well as there are at that time there are the chances of the fertilization they are to be more, because as chances of fertilization are very high during this period, and that period is known as the periodic abstinence period. And in this period the couples they have to avoid the coitus during the period from 10 to 17th day of the menstrual cycle, because at that time the rate of fertilization is very high. The rate of fertilization is very high during this period. That period is known as the fertile period. That period is known as fertile period, and in this fertile period the chances of the fertilization rate is very high. And during the period of the abstinence, in that time the chances of the fertilization is very high, and that period is known as the fertile period. Second is withdrawal or coitus interrupts. This is the second natural method that is works on the principle of avoiding chances of the ovum as well as meeting of the sperm, and that second method is the withdrawal or the coitus interrupts. And how this method or how this principle works, that is the withdrawal or the coitus interrupts. So male partner withdraws penis from the vagina. In this method, that is the withdrawal or the coitus interrupts. In this method the male partner they have to be avoid the penis from the vagina. They have to avoid the penis from the vagina just before the ejaculation to avoid the insemination. Means in this method, that method is the withdrawal or the coitus interrupts. In this method, the male partner avoids, the male partner, that is male partner withdraws penis from the vagina. That means at that time, in this period, that the male partner, that is they have to withdraw the penis from the vagina just before ejaculation. That means when the insemination is to be ejaculate, at that time the male partner withdraws penis from the vagina just before ejaculation to avoid the insemination. So this is the second method. Third method is lactational amenorrhea. This is the third method, that is lactational amenorrhea. And in this method, that is the absence of menstruation. In this period, that is the absence of menstruation. That is the absence of menstruation after the parturition. That means in this method, there is the absence of the menstruation, and this menstruation is absent before the parturition and due to intense milk feeding. Due to intense milk, that is to be intense milk feeding, and at that time there is no ovulation in this period, so chances of fertilization is nil. So in this lactational amenorrhea method, there is the absence of the menstruation, क्योंकि इस period के दौरान जो menstruation का जो time होता है, that is to be totally absent. वो menstruation का time जो होता है, that is to be absent. और वो कब absent होता है? After the parturition. जब parturition का period होता है, at that time जो menstruation का period होगा, that is to be totally absent. और due to this intense milk feeding, क्योंकि उस टाइम पर क्या होता है कि intense milk feeding भी होती है, और जब उस टाइम एक इंटेंस मिल्क फीडिंग होती है तो वहां पर कोई भी ओवुलेशन जो है वो अकर नहीं करता है ड्यूरिंग दिस पीरियड. दैट मींस देयर इज नो ओवुलेशन अकर्स इन दिस पीरियड. सो एट दैट टाइम चांसेस ऑफ फर्टिलाइजेशन इज ऑलमोस्ट निल. तो उस टाइम जो चांसेस होंगे फर्टिलाइजेशन के वो क्या होंगे? निल होंगे. सो दीज आर द वेरियस नेचुरल मेथड्स दैट आर वर्क्स ऑफ द प्रिंसिपल टू अवॉइड द ओवम एज वेल एज मीटिंग ऑफ द स्पर्म. Next is in barrier methods. Barrier methods कौन से होते हैं? In barrier methods, that means there are, after the natural methods, the second methods are the barrier methods, and in this barrier methods, ovum and sperms are prevented from the physical meeting. At that time, in barrier methods, that means at that time both the ovum as well as sperm, ovum and sperm. So in this barrier methods, ovum and sperms, they are prevented from the physical meeting with the help of the barriers. क्योंकि उस टाइम पर जो ovum है as well as sperm है, they are not in contact. They have no contact, or they are not in the meeting contact with the help of barrier. और वो बैरियर कौन से हैं जिसमें कि ओवम भी मीट नहीं करेगा और जो स्पर्म होगा वो भी मीट नहीं करेगा. दैट मीन्स देयर आर सम स्पेशल मेथड्स और द बैरियर मेथड्स जिनकी हेल्प से ओवम एज वेल एज स्पर्म दे कांट मीट विद ईच अदर. एंड दीज बैरियर मेथड्स आर, फर्स्ट इज कंडोम्स, and these condoms are used by the male. At that time, barrier made of rubber or the latex sheet. At that time, the barrier, it is made up of rubber as well as latex sheet. With the help of this, the barrier is made up of, that is rubber as well as latex sheet. With the help of this barrier is made, and this is used especially to cover the penis or the vagina. That means with the help of this barrier, and that barrier is made up of rubber as well as latex sheet, and with the help of this barrier they have to be used to cover the penis as well as vagina and cervix of female, and it also prevents from the STDs, that is sexually transmitted diseases. With the help of this barrier, That means they are totally free from the sexually transmitted diseases or to cure from the sexually transmitted diseases. So this is the barrier method. So this is the condom that is used by the female. This is the condom that is to be used especially by the females, and this is the condom that is to be used by the male. Next is diaphragms, cervical caps and vaults. They are the barriers that are made of rubber, especially diaphragm, cervical cap as well as vaults. These are the barriers that are made with the help of the rubber. They are made with the help of rubber, and these are specially inserted into the female. They are inserted into the female reproductive tract during the period of the coitus. They are specially matched with the female reproductive tract during the period of the coitus. During the period of coitus. During the period of coitus. First method is spermidicial creams, jellies and foams. They are usually used along with these barriers. अब इन barriers के साथ जिनका यूज किया जाता है, that is the spermidicial creams है, jellies है, as well as foams है. They're specially used along with these barriers. क्योंकि इन barriers, ये जो barriers होते हैं, ये किस चीज के साथ जो थे वो बने होते हैं. Especially these barriers are involved with the spermidicial creams, jellies as well as foams, and these barriers are to increase the contraceptive efficiency. That means with the help of these spermidicial creams, jellies as well as foams that are to be used by these barriers, or with the help of these the barriers, they are work more effectively. वो काफी effectively या efficiency के साथ ये जो contraceptives होते हैं वो work करते हैं. What are the various advantages of the various methods? अगर हम various barrier methods को या barrier methods को apply कर रहे हैं तो that means these barrier methods have different types of the advantages. And what are the various different types of the advantages? First is they are disposable. इनको हम dispose कर सकते हैं after the use. So this is the first advantage of this barrier method. Second one is they can be self-inserted. That means they can be easily self-inserted. This is the second advantage of the barrier method. Third one is they are reusable. इनको reuse जो है वो किया जा सकता है. They are reusable. Fourth one is prevents the contraception by blocking entry of the sperms through the cervix. So this is the most important advantage of the barrier method, that is to be prevent the contraception by blocking entry of the sperm through the cervix. Through the cervix. Next, what do you mean by the term Iuds? This is the next method, contraceptive method, and that method is Iuds, that is intrauterine devices. Intrauterine devices. So these intrauterine devices are specially inserted by the doctor or the trained nurse. कोई भी इसको insert नहीं कर सकता है intrauterine devices को. These intrauterine devices are specially inserted by the doctor as well as specially trained nurse into the. अब इसको कहाँ पर insert किया जाता है इस intrauterine devices को? These intrauterine devices are inserted into the female uterus through the vagina. That means these intrauterine devices are specially inserted by the doctor as well as specially trained nurse into the, किसमें इसको insert किया जाता है? Into the uterus of the female through the vagina. Intrauterine devices may be non-medicated. These intrauterine devices are non-medicated होते हैं, and especially these are copper releasing IUD है, ठीक है, that is CUT-7. Next is multi-load 375 and the hormone releasing that is IUDs. Hormone releasing that is IUDs, that is progesterone as well as LNG20. LNG20. This is LNG20. So this is the intrauterine devices. This is the next contraceptive method. Next, what these intra IUCDs क्या करता है? This IUCDs increase the phagocytosis of sperms in the uterus. This IUCDs it always increases the क्या increase करता है? It increases the phagocytosis of the sperm, especially in the uterus, as well as copper reduce the अभी कॉपर क्या रिड्यूस करता है? दिस कॉपर रिड्यूस द मोटिलिटी एज वेल एज फर्टिलिटी कैपेसिटी ऑफ द स्पर्म्स. दैट मींस दिस कॉपर इट ऑलवेज रिड्यूसेस द मोटिलिटी एज वेल एज फर्टिलिटी कैपेसिटी ऑफ द स्पर्म्स. ठीक है. द हार्मोन रिलीजिंग एंड दैट हार्मोन रिलीजिंग इज नोन एज IUDs. IUDs. And this hormone releasing IUDs make the uterus unsuitable for implantation. क्योंकि ये जो IUDs है ये क्या करता है? ये यूट्रस को क्या कर देता है? अनसुटेबल बना देगा. अनसुटेबल, एंड दैट इज अनसुटेबल स्पेशली फॉर द इम्प्लांटेशन. As well as the cervix hostile to the sperms. So it is specially ideal for the female. ये specially किस चीज के लिए ideal है? It is specially ideal for the female and especially for those females who wants to delay the pregnancy. So this method is especially helpful or most useful to those females who have to delay the pregnancy and spacing between the two children. Especially this method is usable for those females, those they want to be avoid the pregnancy or delay the pregnancy and they have to be spaced between the two children. Next is oral pills. This is the next contraceptive methods, that are the oral pills, various oral pills that are to be used by the various females to avoid the unwanted pregnancy, as well as they have to be spaced between the two children. So oral pills are progesterone as well as estrogen combination that are used by the females, especially in the form of tablets. That means these oral pills, they are to be used by the females, and those females who wanted to avoid the unwanted pregnancy, as well as they want to be spaced between the two children, and these especially oral pills, they are to be used by the females in the form of the tablets, that are to be used in the tablets. They inhibit ovulation, वो ovulation को inhibit करेंगे, as well as they have to be inhibit implantation, as well as changes the quality of the cervical mucus to prevent as well as retarded entry of the sperms. With the help of these oral pills, that means they have to be retarded the entry of the sperms, as well as they have to be retarded the cervical mucus to prevent the retarded entry of the sperms into the female uterus. So these are the oral pills that are to be taken by the females within the 72 hours of the coitus. That is to be found, and it is to be found very effective as well as emergency contraceptive. These contraceptives, that are the oral pills that are to be used by the females, and the time duration that is to be taken within the 72 hours of the coitus is found to be very effective. That means this contraceptive is found to be very effective, as well as it is also known as the emergency contraceptive. After the oral pills, next important contraceptive methods to avoid the unwanted pregnancies, that is the surgical methods. After the oral pills, this is the most important method, that is known as the surgical method. So this surgical method is also called as sterilization. That means this surgical method is also known as sterilization. That is, अभी sterilization के method में होता क्या है? It is used as a terminal method. इसको हम एक terminal method के तौर पर use करते हैं of contraception in the males as well as females. That means at that time the surgical method as well as sterilization method to avoid the unwanted pregnancy. That is to be, this method is specially adopted against the, किसके ऊपर अडॉप्ट किया जाता है, स्पेशली अगेंस्ट द मेल्स एज वेल एज फीमेल्स टू अवॉइड द अनवांटेड प्रेगनेंसी and any more pregnancy. So this is the surgical method as well as sterilization method. So this is the method that is known as vasectomy and this method is known as tubicotomy. That means sterilization method or the surgical method is that method is adopted for the females, males, that is known as vasectomy. And in vasectomy, so this is the vasa differentia, and in this vasa differentia, in the method of vasectomy, here the vasa differentia tied and this is the cut. So this is the cut. So this is the vasectomy method and this is the sterilization method or the surgical method, and that method is used against the males. And in tubicotomy, that tubicotomy is used against the females, and this is the fallopian tube. This is the fallopian tube, and here the fallopian tube. This is the fallopian tube, and here it is tied and it is to be cut. Tied and cut. So this method is known as tubicotomy. So this is the surgical method or the sterilization method. So what happened in the vasectomy? Vasectomy में क्या होगा और tubicotomy में क्या होगा? What do you mean by the term vasectomy and what do you mean by the term tubicotomy? तो vasectomy जो है बेटे एक सर्जिकल मेथड है या स्टरलाइजेशन मेथड है that is to be adopted for the males के लिए यूज किया जाता है, whereas जो tubicotomy मेथड है it is against a surgical method और sterilization method that is to be used against the females में जो fallopian tube होती है that is to be tied and cut, whereas in vasectomy जो उसमें surgical method है, especially this surgical method is used in the males. In vasectomy it is a surgical method that is to be used in the males. इसमें a small part of the vasa differentia, क्योंकि जिसमें vasa differentia है उसमें जो small part होता है vasa differentia का that is to be tied and that part is to be cut with the help of the surgical method as well as sterilization method. Vasa differentia is removed or tied up through a small incision on the scrotum to prevent the release of sperms. क्योंकि जब उस part को वहां से cut कर दिया जाएगा, ये tied कर दिया जाएगा, at that time there is no release of the sperms. वहां से वो जो sperms होंगे they are not released. Whereas in tubicotomy it is the surgical method, ये भी एक surgical method है, and this surgical method is used against the females. Females के केस में ये यूज किया जाता है, in which जो small part होगा fallopian tube का that is to be tied and cut. That is to be tied and cut. And that part is to be cut and removed. That is to be surgically इसको वहां से कट कर दिया जाएगा. So these techniques are highly effective, but their reversibility is very poor. ये techniques जो है वो काफी एडवांस तो है, काफी हेल्पफुल भी है, हाईली इफेक्टिव भी है ये टेक्निक जो है, जैसे ट्यूबिकोटॉमी है या वेस्कोटॉमी टेक्निक है. दीज टेक्निक्स आर वेरी वेरी इफेक्टिव बट द रिवर्सिबिलिटी इज वेरी पुअर. पर अगर हम इनकी रिवर्सिबिलिटी को देखेंगे तो दैट रिवर्सिबिलिटी इज वेरी पुअर in surgical methods as well as sterilization method, but these techniques are very effective. Next is what are the side effects of the contraceptive methods. अगर contraceptive methods यूज किए जा रहे हैं, उन contraceptive methods की हेल्प से unwanted pregnancy जो है वो भी कंट्रोल की जा रही है, ठीक है. पर साथ साथ जैसे जैसे इन contraceptive methods को अगर यूज किया जाता है तो what are the various side effects of these contraceptives. So it is very important that the selection of the contraceptive method should be taken under the consultation of the doctor. तो कोई भी अगर contraceptive method अगर यूज किया जाता है तो that means at that time it is very important to take the proper guidance of the doctor and by the guidance of the doctor. After that you have to use that contraceptives. So it is very important that the selection of the contraceptive method should be taken under the consultation of the doctors. Second is they have ill effects like nausea, abdominal pain, breakthrough bleeding. These have the special type of the ill effects, and these ill effects are in the form of nausea, abdominal pain, breakthrough bleeding, irregular menstrual bleeding, or even breast cancer. So these are the special type of the ill effects that are to be used by these contraceptives that are ill effects. One is the nausea, second one is the abdominal pain, third one is the breakthrough bleeding, last one is irregular menstrual breakage, as well as the last one is even the breast cancer. So these are the various types of the side effects that are to be used by these contraceptives. Next is medical termination of pregnancy. What do you mean by MTP? That is medical termination pregnancy. So this is the most important method, that is medical termination pregnancy. So voluntary termination of pregnancy before full term is called as MTP. That is voluntary termination of the pregnancy before the full term is called as MTP. That is medical termination of pregnancy. And it included or induced specially the special type of the term, and that special type of term is known as abortion. So it plays an important role in increasing the population by aborting unwanted pregnancy. तो एक ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट या सबसे एक अच्छा तरीका भी है जिसमें कि क्या किया जाता है कि एक इम्पोर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है जो एक मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन प्रेगनेंसी है. इट ऑल्सो plays a very important role, especially in decreasing the population. Population को decrease करने में एक ये बहुत important role play करता है by aborting unwanted pregnancy. Second, in India, MTP is legalized, especially in 1971. मैंने पहले बताया था कि especially जो इंडिया में MTP है, it is legalized, especially in 1971, with some restrictions to prevent the misuse of indiscriminate and illegal female feticides. MTP कहाँ यूज किया जाता है? Medical termination is used to get rights of unwanted pregnancy due to unprotective intercourse. तो इस मेथड को जो है that is medical termination pregnancy, ये मेथड जो है वो कहाँ यूज किया जाएगा? ये मेथड वहाँ यूज किया जाएगा जहाँ पर unwanted pregnancy है, to unprotected intercourse और failure, या तो उसमें unwanted या unprotected intercourse किया गया है उस टाइम जो एक unwanted pregnancy हुई है, या फिर failure of contraceptives, या फिर contraceptives के fail होने की वजह से unwanted pregnancy हुई है. So these are used during the coitus or the rapes. So MTP method जो है medical termination pregnancy method जो है, it is very applicable or very helpful to avoid the unwanted pregnancy due to unprotectable sex, या फिर unprotectable intercourse, या फिर failure of contraceptives, या फिर rapes as well as during the coitus. Next is when pregnancy continuation could be harmful or even fatal to mother or fetus. उस टाइम भी MTP medical termination pregnancy method जो है that is to be very helpful at that time जब pregnancy continuation जो है वो एक तरह से harmful है, and that pregnancy is very harmful to the mother as well as the child. Next is MTPs are considered relatively safe. जो मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन प्रेगनेंसी है इसको एक सेफ मेथड कहा जाता है, और ये सेफ मेथड कब कहा जाता है? ड्यूरिंग द फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर और अप टू 12 वीक्स ऑफ द प्रेगनेंसी. ये उस टाइम इसको एक बेस्ट मेथड कहा जाता है जब सेफ ड्यूरिंग द फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर है या फिर 12 वीक्स ऑफ द प्रेगनेंसी. सेकेंड ट्राइमेस्टर जो है दैट इज MTP आर मच मोर रिस्कर, क्योंकि जो सेकेंड हमारा ट्राइमेस्टर है मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन प्रेगनेंसी का दैट इज टू बी मच मोर रिस्कर, वो काफी रिस्कर है सेकेंड हमारा मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन जो है ट्राइमेस्टर का, दैट इज टू बी वेरी मच मोर रिस्कर. सो दिस इज द मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन ऑफ प्रेगनेंसी.